Hello everyone and welcome to the Intramural Volleyball Captain's video. In this video you'll learn all the rules and regulations of the Intramural Sports Program and volleyball specific rules to help you with your team for the 2012 Intramural Volleyball season. My name is Mike Wyden, Director of Intramural Sports.
And I'm Tommy Shore, Assistant Director of Intramural Sports here at the University of Iowa. We're going to go ahead and get started with this video. Some people you need to recognize are our graduate assistants, Andy Christopher and Matt McCarthy. Matt will be in charge of administering volleyball this semester, so questions, reschedules, things like that, you need to get in touch with our staff. Matt's going to be the guy to go to, and you'll hear more from him as schedules get made and things like that. When you're out at the game site playing games, you'll likely see one of these people. These are our intramural student supervisors. They've all got shirts like Mike and I are wearing today, so you can recognize them. They'll have name tags on, and they will be at the North Gym on your game nights to help you get signed in and answer any questions that you have. IMLeagues.com is a website that we use heavily as a part of the Intramural Sports Program here at the University of Iowa. You have to be at least somewhat familiar with it at this point, as you've made it this far to watch this video. On this site we've got league announcements. You can add players to your roster once you get your team signed up and registered. Once we make schedules, at the end of registration you can check your team schedules online throughout the season. You can find sport rules and information sheets for not only volleyball but for all of our sports throughout the year. To do that, you just click on the handbooks and manual section on the home page of each sport, and you can find rules and information, registration sheets, things like that. And once we get going with the season, you can find updated standings and brackets on imleagues.com as well. As a team captain, you have certain responsibilities for our program and for your team. One is to make sure your teammates are eligible. We don't want to get into a situation where you have players on your team signed up or trying to participate that are not eligible. Then you have to forfeit games and we have to do some administrative work, things like that. So we need you guys to make sure your teammates are eligible and make sure your teammates know the sport and program rules. So things we talk about on this video, go over them with your teammates, make sure they're familiar with our program rules and regulations and the rules for intramural volleyball. And if we need to contact you for any reason, administrative-wise, you will serve as our contact for the Intramural Sports Office. Team roster. Players can be added to your roster. Once you get registered, teams can be added to your roster until 10 a.m. the day of your quarterfinal game. So you play well in the regular season and you make the playoffs, you can continue adding players until 10 a.m. the day of your quarterfinal playoff game. To be guaranteed eligible to play in a game on a given night, a player must be added by 10 a.m. the day of the game if the game is on a weekday, or by 5 p.m. on Friday if the game is on a Sunday. Again, like we talked about, you are responsible for making sure players are eligible on your team. So check imleagues.com frequently to make sure everybody on your team is eligible. If someone changes jobs and no longer works for the university, things like that, that will make them ineligible. So make sure you're checking to make sure your players are eligible. If you need to drop a player from your roster for any reason, you can submit a roster drop request. They're available outside our office in E216 Fieldhouse and on imleagues.com. If a player has participated in a game for your team, however, that player cannot be dropped from your roster. And once you complete that, go ahead and fill that out and drop it in our box outside E216 Fieldhouse. Number of players for intramural volleyball, you can play with 4, 5, or 6 players on the court at once. And teams playing with either 4 or 5 players must have 2 back row players at all times. That means that they cannot jump from in front of the 10-foot line and attack, or cannot block, things like that. They are backcourt players. Co-rec lineups, if you're playing in a co-rec league, the following lineups are legal. You can have, if you have 6 players, it's got to be 3 men and 3 women. If you have 5 players, you can do 3 and 2, either way, 3 men, 2 women, or 3 women, 2 men. And if you have 4 players, it must be 2 and 2, 2 men and 2 women. So you have to have at least 4 players to start a game, so if you're playing co-rec, you have to have at least 2 men and 2 women to get started in your match. Who is eligible for intramural sports? Students, faculty, and staff of the University of Iowa are eligible, as well as spouses or legally married partners of the originally eligible person. So if you're on a co-rec team and you're married and your wife or husband wants to play on your team, they can. Just fill out a spouse addition form available outside our office or on ionleagues.com. Get that submitted to us and we'll get you added to that team. But spouses or legally married partners are only eligible on the same team as their originally eligible partner. And a player may only represent one team in the men's or women's divisions and one team in the co-rec divisions. Once a player enters a game on a second men's or women's team, that person is considered ineligible for the remainder of that sport, and any teams with ineligible players will forfeit all games in which those ineligible players participate. So again, we stress, make sure everybody on your team is eligible according to our rules and regulations, and they're not playing on multiple teams. Fraternity sorority participation: if you're registering a team with your organization name, any active member or pledge can participate for that fraternity or sorority. If you're using the organization name, everyone on that team must be a member of that Greek organization. Intercollegiate athletes are not eligible in the sports in which they play, at the intramural sport related to the intercollegiate sport that they play. So anybody that plays for Iowa volleyball cannot play on an intramural team. If they're a former Division I athlete, he or she must sit out an entire 2 full semesters before being eligible in that related sport. Once you get to the playing site to play your game on a given night, all players must present a university ID to check in. Each player will check in with the officials or the supervisor on staff that we showed their pictures earlier. So once you get to the North Gym the night of your game, have your university ID, check in with the supervisor or officials on your court, and get signed in and ready to play. If you do not have your ID, you cannot play. There's no exceptions. So captains, remind all your players to bring their university IDs to get in. Since games are at the field house, you have to bring your ID to get in the facility anyway, so this shouldn't be a problem. Any person caught misusing a university ID is subject to suspension from intramural sports. So if somebody else isn't on a team or isn't playing intramural volleyball or whatever, and you take that person's ID and try to use it, whether it's a friend, roommate, doesn't matter, they give it to you for whatever reason, and you try and use that, you are subject to suspension from intramural sports. Additionally, these instances will be reported to the Dean of Students office for further possible university sanctions for violation of the Student Code of Conduct. Participant conduct: when you're out there playing, we want you to exhibit sportsmanlike behavior. So all participants are expected to exhibit good sportsmanship. Any participants who participate in a fight, although uncommon in volleyball, it can happen. If you participate in a fight, you will be suspended from all recreational services activities for 1 calendar year at minimum. And again, those incidents will also be passed along to the Dean of Students office over across the river. If you happen to be arguing with the officials or acting in an unsportsmanlike manner, you may get ejected. An ejected player must meet with the IM staff before becoming eligible for participation in intramural sports once again. And the team captain, that's you watching this video, the team captain needs to also attend a meeting in order to be eligible to participate in intramural sports once again. So ejected participants will be suspended at least 1 additional game. Team captains, depending on timeliness of your response and things like that, will be good to play once that meeting takes place. Like we talked about, sportsmanship is key in our program and in intramural volleyball. Officials will rate your team's sportsmanship on a scale of 1 to 4, with 1 being excellent and 4 being poor. Teams receiving a 3 or 4 will receive an email. If you receive a 4, you will need to come have a meeting with us in the intramural sports office with our administrative staff. If you get a 3, you'll get an email warning saying, hey, help us out, act more in a sportsmanlike manner, be more mature, things like that. Just a reminder for us to give you that we want you to act in a sportsmanlike manner when you're out there. And if you're trying to make playoffs, you must have a 2.5 sportsmanship average to be eligible for playoffs, and you must maintain that throughout the playoffs in order to be eligible to continue playing. All games are officiated by our intramural officials. They are students here at the University of Iowa. They are trained by our intramural sports staff. Some of them may be new, some of them may be veterans, but we train them up the best we can. They're out there doing the best they can just like you are while you're playing. Some of them may be certified in volleyball through the National Federation of High Schools, NFHS, or some other accredited association. Some of them may not be, but either way, please treat them with the respect you expect to receive from them while you're participating. If you are not ready to play within 10 minutes of your scheduled game time, you will forfeit. Not being ready to play means you don't have enough players, most likely, or your team hasn't shown up. If you forfeit a game, you will be fined half of the entry fee, which for intramural volleyball is $22.50. That will be assessed to the team captain's U-bill, so that will be assessed to your U-bill as team captain, and you will have a chance to earn a refund if it's not your last scheduled game. You will have a chance to earn a refund by telling us you want to stay in the league, showing up for the rest of your games. If that happens, then we will go ahead at the end of the season to refund that forfeit fine to your U-bill. If you forfeit a playoff game, you don't have any more games remaining, so you lose that chance to get that refund. To avoid a forfeit, your team can default if you know you're not going to be there. Everybody's going out of town and you play on a Sunday, you're not going to be back in time, or you all have a test or exam or something like that. You can go ahead and notify our office by noon the day of the game. If you do that, tell us that you're not going to be there. That first time, you will not be subject to any fine. We'll thank you for letting us know. We'll get a hold of the other team, tell them they don't need to show up. We'll take care of our officials, things like that. If you do it a second time, you will be fined 25% of the registration fee. And if you do it a third time, you will be fined 50% of the registration fee. Again, that'll be assessed to the team captain's U-bill. The point of this is we want our teams to show up. We want games to happen. One team shows up, another team doesn't. That's frustrating for everybody involved that's there ready to make a game happen. So make sure you're letting us know if you can't be there, but hopefully you'll only do it once, and that needs to be done by noon the day of the game. And you can do that by emailing our GA, Matt McCarthy, at matthewmccarthy@uio.edu, or by calling our office at 319-335-9292. Protests. If there's something that happens out there and there's a misinterpretation or misapplication of the rule by our officials, you have the opportunity to to protest. In order to do that, you must call a timeout immediately and get the sports supervisor over there to make a ruling. Explain what happened to the sports supervisor. The official will also explain. A ruling will be made on what the deal is and what should be correct. If the ruling is upheld, you'll just be charged with that timeout. Play will continue. If it's not upheld or you don't agree with the decision that is made, you can submit a formal protest, fill out a protest form, give it to our supervisor, turn it in by noon along with payment the following business day, and our intramural administrative staff will read through the scenario, make a correct ruling. If the ruling is what you're saying and your protest is upheld, you will receive a refund of that $5. If you're wrong and the protest is not upheld, then we will keep your $5 and everything will go on as it had been. Now Mike's going to take over and talk about some volleyball specific information.
Thanks, Tommy. We'll get into a little bit more of the details about the sport of volleyball. For our volleyball intramural events, we're going to be playing all of our games in the north gym of the field house. So that's where you'll be headed to each night you play volleyball. The team schedules for each league will be set on imleagues.com. We'll be finalizing those on October 11th. So that day, be checking imleagues.com for your particular team schedule. They'll be available there on imleagues. And our game date for starting our leagues will be the week of Sunday, October 14th. Once we get going in our leagues, we'll have standings that will be posted on imleagues.com. Once we enter those scores, you'll be able to go to that site and see those scores there. We'll also post them on our intramural bulletin board outside of E216 Fieldhouse, which is where our office is. So if you're in the Fieldhouse, you can stop there and check them out as well. When we go to the playoffs, we will take the top 2 teams out of every division that will advance on to the playoffs. So if you can get in the top 2 of your division of what's most likely going to be 4, those top 2 teams will advance on to the single elimination bracket. a little bit on the computer here. Okay, now moving on to the game rules. It is the responsibility of you as a team captain to make sure all of your teammates know the rules for volleyball, so you can make sure that they're aware of those and give them to them either in a hard copy outside of our office. You can pick those up, or you can see them on imleagues.com under the rules setup. Jewelry. We have a jewelry rule for intramural volleyball. For your safety, we require that all the jewelry is taken off prior to the start of the game. So that includes earrings, wristbands, or any kind of jewelry that you have on. That's got to be removed before you start. That way you can participate in that game. Some of our match rules: we're going to play matches best 2 out of 3 sets. The first 2 sets we're going to play rally scoring to 25 points, win by 2 with a cap of 30. So therefore, if you get that far, a team could win a match, or could win 30 to 29. Then in set 3, if we get that far, we'll have rally scoring playing to 15 points with a cap of 20, still win by 2. We'll start each match with a coin toss. If you win the coin toss, you're going to get to choose which side you play, as well as serve the first and third game, or first and third set. The team that loses the coin toss will serve that second set, and then we're going to make a switch of sides after each set for the first and second one. And then in the third set, once we get to 8 points, one team has 8, then we'll make that switch as well. Substitutes. If you have extra players, more than 6 there, and you want to get them in your lineup, the substitutions can be made at the center back position. That's the only place we can allow subs to come in. And then once that substitute comes in at the center back position, they're required to make 1 full rotation around each position before that substitute then can come out of the game. And substitutes can only enter the game in that center back position when your team has the serve. Speaking of serving, there are a couple ways that you can serve legally in most matches. We do allow serving overhand and underhand in all the matches except for if you are in the co-rec recreational sections. So those leagues always have to have an underhand serve. Everything else can be overhand or underhand. Also, a serve ball that hits the net, continues over, passes over the net, that is a legal serve and is in play, so make sure you're playing those serves that hit the net. And also on serving, it is illegal to block a serve or spike a serve at the net. So legal contact for the ball and net. A legal contact is playing the ball any part of the player's body above or below the waist, so it doesn't matter if you kick it, hit it with your arms, it doesn't matter. Any part of your body is legal as long as it's one contact. Players must avoid contact with the net at all times. So make sure you're not running into that net. If you do touch that net, that'll kill the play immediately, and that'll result for a point for the non-offending team. A little bit about our Buffalo Wild Wings Intramural Sports Championship point system. If you've played sports already, or maybe you're going to participate in some other sports throughout the season, you can keep the same team name, and we award points for each team that participates in every single sport. And those points are awarded based upon where you finish that particular sport. So the better you do, the more points you're going to be awarded. And so once you keep that same team name, we can accumulate points throughout the year to work towards the final championship points. And once we have those champions, we'll be awarding those in 5 different divisions. The men's, the women's, the fraternity, a sorority, and a co-rec division will each have a Buffalo Wild Wings champion. And for doing that, you get awarded a championship trophy, some t-shirts, and a $100 gift card for your team to go use at Buffalo Wild Wings. So we encourage everyone to be a part of that. Also, another program we're involved in is called an eChug program. We're partnering with the Division of Student Life to provide an online confidential alcohol assessment for all of our intramural sports participants. Some incentive for your team to do that. If you can get 75% of your volleyball roster, 75% of your players to complete this assessment by the end of the season, you're eligible to get a refund of 100% of your entry fees. So more details are available on our Intramural Sports website, but it's a great opportunity for you to take this assessment and get your entry fee refunded to you. So we will have a volleyball waitlist meeting. So if some of you are registering now and you see that a certain number of spots are already taken for your particular league that you want to play in, or maybe the night you want to play is filled up, you can get on our waiting list. And our waiting list teams are set in that wait list until this meeting on Wednesday, October 10th at 2 p.m. in room 201 in the field house. If you're on that waiting list, you must attend this meeting in order to pick a spot to be in a division for volleyball. So what we'll do is we'll fill up any spots that we have remaining, and then we'll open up new leagues and new times and new days for those of you on the waiting list. So don't be discouraged if you've signed up already and you see that everything's full. You can get on our waiting list and we can work as many teams as possible as our schedule allows. Maybe you don't have a team, maybe you're watching this video, or maybe you're a team captain that needs more players. We provide a free agent meeting for anybody that doesn't have a team or doesn't have enough players for their own team. We encourage those people to come to our free agent meeting for volleyball. It's going to be held Tuesday, October 9th at 2 p.m. in room 201 in the field house. And at that meeting, we will have everybody there that needs to find a team or teams that are looking for players, so you'll be able to meet other people and maybe form a team of just free agents, or maybe you can sign up with another team that's maybe looking for one or more players. But Tuesday, October 9th at 2 p.m. at 201 in the field house is where you need to be for that free agent meeting. So the registration requirements in order to get a team into intramural volleyball is, number one, you've got to pass the captain's quiz, which you'll take immediately after watching this video. You'll need to meet the minimum player requirement, which for volleyball is 4 players. Then once you've done that, you'll pay your registration fee through the PayPal website on imleagues.com. Then once you've paid your fee, you'll be able to select the day and the time of your division, or you'll be going into the waiting list. And all those things need to be done in order by the deadline for registration is 8 a.m. on Wednesday, October 10th. So this is the slide for you to do all these things in order to get your team signed up for intramural volleyball. One more thing about the intramural program is some new events this year that we're promoting. It's called a Friday Night Series event. These are free events to all university students, faculty, and staff for them to come out and play in some event on a Friday night. That's brand new, and it's an alternative sports event that we're holding for free. This fall we have 2 more remaining. We have late night softball and volleyball coming up. And then in the spring semester we have 3 more: wiffle ball, inner tube water polo, and kickball. Those are all free events, so see our website and imleagues.com for registration details on those Friday night series events. And then finally, if you have any questions about the registration process or anything we've covered today, you're always able to contact our office at 319-335-9292, or you can email us at intramural-sports@uiowa.edu. And this concludes our video for your volleyball captains meeting. Thanks and for your attention.